Part 12 of 25. I'm Joey. From Good Little Boys Go to Heaven by Stukin. Fall 1956, East Texas. After sitting at a bus stop for close to 2 days, I boarded a bus leaving East County, Texas. All I had with me was a guitar in its case and a suitcase half full of clothes. I'd had the guitar for 10 years or so. I'd only bought the suitcase and its contents in town a few days before. I'd walked 5 or 6 miles to town from the shack where I'd grown up, and I didn't want to go far from this bench, with this bench offering me a bus stop to leave here. I showed up at the diner just after sunrise the day before, and when I saw the lights go on, I knocked on the door. A woman opened the door, and she knew what I was there for. She sold me the ticket and asked, "Is there a home somewhere close you can go to wait? 2 days is a long time to sit out in front of this diner and wait. You can't be in that much of a hurry to leave. Waiting here won't get you on your way any sooner." "No, ma'am, I have nowhere in this county to go. It doesn't matter where I spend the next 2 days. That bench will hold me fine if that's all right with you." She nodded her head. I'd been waiting for most of my 16 years to leave here. It didn't matter where I waited for the next 2 days. She said the bus usually ran through every day and explained why I'd have to wait 2 days. But her explanation didn't make sense to me. It might not have made sense to her either, but she offered it, and I accepted it with a nod of my head. I stayed out front of the diner, sat down on the bench. I got up every so often to stretch my legs, but I didn't sleep at all while waiting for the bus. A couple of times the woman in the diner came out to give me a sandwich, smiled, and told me how much longer I had to wait. I'm not sure how to describe what I was feeling. I hadn't left East County before, and even though I felt I had to leave, I was nervous because I didn't know what was ahead for me. When the bus pulled into the stop, the woman from the diner stuck her head out the door and nodded toward the bus. I nodded goodbye to her and turned toward the bus and walked up to it. The driver opened the door and I boarded. He took my ticket and nodded me the back of the bus. I sat next to the window and looked out. A few stops after I got on, another man, wearing a suit and a hat with a flat top, got on, took a seat beside me. He started talking and mentioned in his talk that he had family in Houston he would be staying with. "Yeah, I've been to Houston several times and I learned my way around a bit. My folks usually come to the bus station and wait on me. You got nobody to meet you at the bus stop, you say? That's all right. People can be welcoming to a young man leaving country life behind. I can point you to a place you can stay for a short while until you get your affairs together. You got any money at all? No, that's not my business. But in some places, you can stay for free for a short while. Others won't let you through the door without you having a dollar bill stapled to your forehead. I'll show you the direction and you'll be able to manage." We reached Houston and got off the bus near downtown. He waved to a group of 4 or 5 people who were waving to him. He pointed to them and said something to me about them. I don't think I heard what he said. He pointed in a different direction and told me where I could find a shelter a couple of miles away from the bus terminal. He gave me directions 4 or 5 times. Finally, I smiled and said I understood. We shook hands and parted company. I waved to his folks as he walked towards them. They waved back. There wasn't room for me at the shelter, but I received a meal and guidance to a couple of cheap rent-out room places. If I hadn't told them I had a few dollars, they might have found a place for me to sleep. But I wasn't as desperate as it seems most of the guys who stayed there were, so I moved on. They pointed me in the direction of a few room-to-let places and said I could probably talk my way into a room if I had a few dollars to show them. A vacancy sign was all the welcome I needed. I walked into the office and offered a head nod as a greeting. "Where you from, son?" asked the man behind the front counter. "I'm from East County. I'm Joey," I said while pulling out a small amount of money from my pocket. "I see you got yourself a little bankroll, Joey. It's good for a young man to have a bit of money when he gets to Houston. But you shouldn't be flashing money around. My name is Jackson. and you got to find someplace cheaper to stay than here. People rent out rooms in their homes. Staying here, you'll quickly go through that little bit of money you have. You religious? Go to church and ask around. Clean, polite young fellow like you probably won't have any trouble finding someone to rent out a room. Just show that you're a good sort of fella. That's the key to getting along. Be polite. Don't take what isn't yours. Respect others. How old are you? Negroes are quick to help each other out. Some are anyway. Only carry in your pocket what you expect to spend that day. The rest find somewhere to put it away. Don't ever tell anyone where you keep your stash, not even friendly folks like me. I got no need to know, ever, where your money is kept. Understand? You had time to look for work? That's the first or second thing you need to do. Look for work in someplace cheaper to stay. I'm looking to find myself a job playing guitar, I responded. You any good? There are places you can play if you're good, but you got to be good, Joey. Are you trained? Are you? Can you read music? Maybe you can play someplace like Shady's. The music they play is raw there. Well, you probably don't have the training to play places like the Rado. The Rado, that's where the fellows who have training play. El Dorado, I think. They give you a sheet of music and you have to be able to play just by looking at the sheet. Hell, I don't know you, Joey. I'm just guessing. You might be the greatest thing nobody ever heard of. Most country fellows walk in here got nothing going for them but the desire to succeed, and that can carry a fellow a long way. I hope you're good. You have to be good and work at it. I'm just looking to make the most out of whatever talent I got. If I can't make a go of it, I'll try something else. You got the right idea about it, at least, Joey. A good life is a good life, whether it's provided for by playing a guitar or by playing a mop. A man has to be willing to work hard and stay away from liquor, hard drugs, the wrong kind of women, lazy friends, and greasy food. You'll do fine. You have a good look about you, he said. I hadn't given any thought to playing a mop, mopping floors, but I was 16 and determined to do what I had to do. I had known tougher times than I'd probably face in Houston, so I shrugged it off. Houston seemed like heaven to me, at least the part I'd seen in my first few hours there. I saw myself as a guitar player, even though I hadn't never been paid to play for anyone and had only played for a few folks. I was a guitar player because I enjoyed playing and because I said I was. My mama's father was a guitar player. He sang also. He tried to make a living with his guitar and with his singing. Things got tough and he quit on his family. He left my mama and her mama with his wife behind with his mother in East County. He told them he'd send for them after he was set up playing his music. He never sent for them. His wife, my grandmother, died young. His child, my mother, died at nearly the same age as her mother, both in East County. My mama tried to raise me to be the man she thought her father should have been. She told me over and over again, a man can't settle with a family until after he settles with himself. You can't ever quit on your family. I left no wife or child behind in East County. I've never quit on anyone. I stayed by my mother's side until she passed. That wasn't long ago. I went up to the room and opened the door. The room was clean with no smell. A bed took up most of the room. The door opened to the foot of the bed. The chest of drawers was against the wall to the left of the door. There was a chair to the right. I set my bag down on the floor and lay down on the bed. It was dark out when I awoke. I changed clothes and picked up my guitar, ready to start my search for a job. What time do you have, sir? It's almost 11:30. You aren't heading out now, are you, Joey? It's too late. Most of the folks who go to these clubs work when they can find work. Clubs start playing 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Most of them. They're usually about to close down about this time. I didn't know. Thank you so much, sir. I went back upstairs with my guitar. I thought about what he said and realized he was right. I should have been able to figure out what he had said for myself. I took my guitar out of its case and began playing. I didn't play any songs, I just did some chord changes. I played for about an hour when I decided to go down and have another talk with the old man. What kind of music do you play here? All kinds, rhythm and blues, soul, jazz. They make gospel records at Peacock. Which of those do you play? Records? They play records on the radio? Yeah, they make records here at Peacock and other places as well. They make all kinds. They give them out to radio stations. And if you have a radio, it's close to having a band playing in your living room and having a sick singer sitting on your couch singing. I'm open to play anything. I like all kinds. He nodded his head warily. You got yourself a decent suit? You have to be nicely dressed to get in some of these places. The radar for and others to tell themselves they are high class. There are clubs you can't get in dressed like you're dressed. Depends on what you're going for. Depends on how good you are. I hadn't thought about a suit. I'd never owned a suit. I'd never been to church, and a suit wasn't everyday wear in East County. No, not a nice one. I'll have to get one tomorrow. You need good shoes, too. I nodded my head. For the first time, I realized what a big step I'd taken by coming to Houston. There was so much I didn't know. I rose the next morning hungry for breakfast. I stopped at the counter of the hotel. Is there some place close I can find something to eat? There's a diner out the door to the right, about half a block. A diner? Yes, that's a place where people go to be served food. I know, I said with a smile. They don't serve Negroes in the diners in the towns you come from? Okay, they do here. Be careful about spending all your money on diner food. You need to find a grocer and stock up on things that won't spoil, canned food and food that comes in jars. Diner food is for once a week or once every other week. Thanks. I got into town last night. Jackson and I had a good talk. I thought I'd have breakfast and look around some, hopefully find work. Then I can look for a grocery. I don't need to know all that. I didn't mean to start a conversation. I'm just giving you good advice. Go have some breakfast and do the other things you mentioned. Jackson gave you a good talking to? Oh, you'd be all right. The diner was easy to find. I went in and took a seat at the counter. I had just placed my order when this woman came up and asked if the seat next to me was taken. I told her it wasn't, and she sat down. What's for breakfast? She asked. I'm not sure, I answered. What did you order? I'm asking. Eggs and bacon. That's fine. I'll have the same. The waitress came over and asked the woman for her order. The woman looked at me. I just shook my head. The woman frowned up her face at me and without saying anything got up and left. I didn't watch her to see if she just moved on to another spot or she left the diner. She was an older woman, maybe 30, kind of heavy set and dark skinned, and she talked way too loud. I got to town on a Tuesday, and the first club I hit Wednesday morning was Shady's. They had something they called Blue Mondays. Anyone who showed up could get on stage and play. The crowd was friendly to anyone who could play. The fellow there pointed me to other clubs that had the same thing. I decided I decided that before I took the stage anywhere, I should follow Jackson's advice and look for work that would pay every day. I went to several clubs looking for work cleaning up. In the clubs, I didn't have the clubs to go on stage in. I got picked up at the El Dorado, mopping floors during the day. That was perfect for me. I'd mop their floors in the early morning and then head to one of the clubs where I could play in the afternoon. All this work wasn't leaving me with much time for working on my music, and I could tell from the reaction I got from men I played with I needed a lot of work. I told myself I needed to be patient. I was looking to make something lasting for myself. I had to be settled before I took on a regular place to live. We played for tips in the clubs I played, which didn't amount to much. I was making more mopping floors. The first to show up went on stage. I started showing up at about 10 in the morning, and usually I'd go on stage by myself. I found a room with one of the guys who cleaned up at the El Dorado. He had a family. Both he and his wife were working, and they were happy to have a little extra money coming in. They were both from small towns, and they were happy to help me out, they said. I was quiet, and I didn't spend much time out of my room when I was there. Guys playing the clubs would be living back of Shady's, but I never went in for that. Men practically living on top of each other. I would have gone crazy having to dig my way out of a pile of men just to get a breath of fresh air. Low class joints and honky tonks seemed to be all I was suited for. I couldn't read music, and worse, I couldn't fit in. I didn't have a feeling for what they were playing. I liked listening to some of it, but you have to like all of it to fit in. Blues was what they were playing on Dowling Street. Dowling Street ran all the way through Third Ward. Blues sounded a little like the country I grew up listening to, but the singing and playing were a little raw. At least raw or raw was the term the guys used to describe their sound. The scales were also a little different. If you took the C scale, all the notes were played natural, with no sharps or flats. In the blues scale, you flattened the third and seventh notes, which would give you an E flat and a B flat. It sounded a little different, but I liked it a lot. Still, I couldn't play it. I met a fellow I followed in and out of a lot of clubs. He was quite a bit older than me, but he was calm, easygoing, and pleasant to be around. He said he'd had his shot and he was just finishing out his sentence of playing in the clubs. I never asked what he figured he'd do after his sentence was done. I found a club I was able to stay in for a short while. I was playing 2 or 3 nights a week. The band traveled, and I'd play with them when they were in Houston. They said I was too young to be playing all the places they played, but I was fine sticking in Houston. They didn't make traveling sound appealing, all sharing rooms, sharing women, sharing everything else. I was about 6 months short of 18, and I still hadn't messed around with any women since I'd been in Houston. I was too busy trying to hold on to every dime I got my hands on. I had plans, and plans almost always come with a cost. I was walking through the club where I was playing. The band was I played with was in Beaumont or Port Arthur, I think, or maybe Galveston. Just taking in the air, this woman stopped me and asked me what I was drinking. She was attractive, I thought, so I didn't just walk on by her. I looked around the table where she was sitting, looking for a boyfriend or a husband, maybe. There were 3 women and one man sitting there. She had a woman on either side of her. I looked at her again and asked her, "What are you drinking?" She smiled and said, "Whiskey straight up. Get yourself one too." That was the first drink I ever had, the first I bought for a woman as well. After I gave her the drink, she thanked me and gave me the brush off. "See you later, little boy." She was medium brown, a little darker than me. She wore her hair short and pressed to her head. She was very attractive. I went up to a friend, Mikey, whose father owned the club, who was sitting at the bar observing the goings on in the place. I pointed her out to him and asked him what he knew about her. He laughed and said she was a singer with her own band and she'd eat me alive. I decided I'd keep my distance from her. At least I tried. A few nights later, she approached me at the bar and asked what we were drinking. I told her we weren't drinking anything. She told me to get her a whiskey straight up. I told her the bartender would take an order directly from her. She smiled while staring hard at me. "What's your name, boy?" she asked. "Joey." "Well, Joey, you don't want to buy a lady a drink?" There were a lot of other men in the club who would have been more than happy to get her a drink. I wish she'd have just moved on. Even with her questionable reputation, she was still quite a looker. I just continued to stare at her until she gave up and left. "I'll be seeing you, Joey," she said over her shoulder as she walked away. Mikey and I had a good laugh over that one. Mikey told me to be careful or she'd end up having her way with me. I shook my head and laughed. If I'd only known. I showed up at the club a week later with my guitar. There was a band playing a little, drinking a lot. In the middle of the commotion they created, there she was. I sat at the bar at the opposite end of the club from the stage where they were. I listened to them play a couple of songs. She didn't do any singing, though. She just sat on a stool and moved her head from side to side along with the music. I couldn't take my eyes off her. I'm not sure if she spotted me at the bar or if she was going for a drink, but she was heading for the bar. I spun around on the stool I was on to where I was facing the bar. She took a position a couple of stools away from me. I looked straight ahead, but I could feel her looking at me. She came closer to me and took the stool right next to me. What are you doing here, boy? I play guitar. My band is out of town. Why do you have that guitar if your band is out of town? Why aren't you out of town with your band? You any good with that guitar? She asked. I shrugged my shoulders. Sometimes I sit in with the band playing if I know any of the guys. You hoping to sit in with my band? No, I don't know any of the folks in your band. She put one arm around me, pulled me close, kissed me on the cheek. You know me, baby. She got up and retook her position among her band. A couple of days later, she approached me at the club and said her guitar player had quit. Just up and took off on me. She told me to come by the next day and see if maybe I could fit in. I later found out she had fired him that very day she kissed me on the cheek. I hadn't heard from the band I played with, and the man who scheduled bands at this club said he had no idea where they were, when they were coming back, or if they were coming back. I showed up with my guitar and thought I was ready to play. She didn't like my playing. She said I had some talent, but I wasn't up to their standards. Their standards? They weren't any good. She couldn't carry a tune very far, but the job would pay if I got it. She said I could continue showing up for their rehearsals, and maybe I'd be able to get the music down. It was about a month before she actually let me on stage with the band. A month of my showing up and not getting paid a dime. I could have been trying other clubs. I could have been out on the streets playing for tips. She told me I needed to get myself a better electric guitar. The guitar I had was near the bottom of the line. The neck was slightly bowed, which made the guitar difficult to keep in tune. A good electric guitar cost a pretty penny. I wasn't about to spend a good portion of what I had on one. I agreed with her that I needed one, though. It was on my birthday, my 18th actually, but I told everyone it was my 20th, that she told me she was going to give me something special. After we'd finished playing, she pulled me to the side. Where you stand, baby? I told her I was renting a room in someone's house. She told me to get myself a hotel room. I came out of the hotel front with the key in my hand, found her leaning against a car, barely able to stand. I should have left her there. I waved her inside, and she slowly followed me up the stairs. This room is nice. I must be paying you too well, she said with a smile. You have any glasses? I bought a little nightcap to toast on your birthday. She was difficult to take when she was sober, almost impossible when she was like this, drunk. I don't have any glasses. She shrugged and pulled out the bottle. She opened it and said to me, Don't tell anybody you seen this. This ain't the way a lady drinks. She held the bottle to her lips and took a swallow. She then passed it to me and I did likewise. You've been making real good progress on your guitar. You really do need to get yourself a better one though. How about if I start taking some of the money I pay you and save it up for you? When I have enough saved, I'll get you that guitar. The way she said it made it sound like a good idea. I nodded my head, yes. How many girls you been with? I'm sure a good-looking young man like you has had a few. I didn't answer. I shrugged my shoulders. She laughed and said, You probably won't even remember me after we're done. She walked up to me and kissed me on the lips. She bit my lip and then placed her tongue against my lips. Open your mouth. I did as I was told. The next morning we woke up in bed together. I wanted to get away from her as soon as possible, so I offered to take her to the diner and buy her some breakfast. She didn't eat much. She wasn't much of a morning person, she said. She just wanted to go home and get some more sleep. We parted company outside the diner, her going her way, me going mine. When I showed up for practice that day, things seemed to be back to normal. She didn't show that she had any special interest in me. When she paid out the money at the end of the week, I noticed I only got one-third of what I had been getting. When I mentioned to her, she said, You remember that electric guitar? It won't take any time till you've saved up enough. I didn't exactly trust her, but I felt I was in control as long as I was willing to walk away at any time. I didn't walk away, though. I stayed with her band for almost a year. I approached her a few times about the electric guitar. She said I was getting closer by the day. I wasn't happy. I wasn't making enough to live on. I'd gone through most of the money my father had given me. I rented a room at a hotel I couldn't afford and invited her up one evening when we weren't playing. She showed up half drunk. I need the money you've been saving for me, I said to her. That money is for a new electric guitar. I need the money, I repeated. What, you don't trust me? Why are you bringing this money thing up? Your goddamn money's in the bank drawing interest. When I have enough saved for you, I'll buy you that goddamn guitar you wanted so goddamn much. I never in my life hit a woman, but I came close this time. We didn't have practice the next couple of days. A couple of the guys in the band were playing with this rhythm and blues band at another club. Finally, when we resumed practice, I showed up first. I took out my guitar and started playing a bit. The next guy who showed up, I didn't know. I knew what he was carrying, though. It was a guitar case. He took out his electric guitar and started tuning it. I sat and listened for a little bit, then he invited me to join in. We played a couple of songs together. We went back and forth between lead and rhythm. It was great playing with him. Then she walked in. This here's Eddie. He's taking your place in the band, was all she said. She walked away towards the bar. I put my guitar back in its case, sat there for a moment on the stool, trying to decide what to do. I got up and left. There wasn't any point in fighting with this woman about my place in the band, about the money she'd stolen from me. I just left. I saw Mikey the next day and told him my story. The band leader gets paid. He decides who plays in his band and what he pays them. You have to fight for whatever you get, whatever pay you get. Band leaders don't want to pay a man nothing. She got you good, he said. She had been paying me next to nothing and pocketing my fair share of what the club had been paying the band. He laughed quite a bit and said he had warned me. I told him I was moving on to another place. I felt I'd stayed my welcome at Shady's. He shook my hand and told me he'd be seeing me. I didn't work or do anything much for the next week or so. My money was running low, but I didn't really care. I was angry with her, but I was angrier with myself. And that's it. Voice almost held together.